Yes, sorry, Elena. No, I'm based in Cairo for UN Women, covering the region. So it's around 17 countries altogether, but 7 countries in which we have proper offices, full-fledged offices, and then we cover Yemen and Libya from Tunisia and Iraq. So it's in our world that would be called cluster offices. I'm actually Swedish Egyptian, but of course I'm employed on a Swedish passport. Yes.
So good afternoon, and thank you for being here. We are waiting for two more speakers to come to join us. So perhaps we'll just wait a couple of more minutes, and then in the interest of time, we will start.
They could be lost actually because there was something wrong with the room. And then first they told us it's meeting room 4, which was on the other side, and we ran back. We, I,
Yes. The Rose is supposed to be on the panel.
Great. So I think it is time to start. And so a very warm welcome. It's a big room, but we're very happy to see that some people are still with us. And actually, I'm quite honored to have a panel with a wealth of knowledge that I really hope we're going to use as much as possible. So from the audience, I really would like to see your participation as well. And this event is very dear to my heart. I'm a gender specialist, a senior gender specialist at the International Labour Organization. And I've worked for many years in the Middle East and also in Asia and in Africa. And I've just recently come to COP. It's my first COP, 27, overwhelming, but also very happy to see that the discourse on gender equality is picking up pretty much everywhere. So we're very happy to have this event tonight with our partners, with UN Women and UNEP as well. So tackling the triple planetary crisis by promoting a gender transformative just transition. It is what we would like to discuss this afternoon. And I would like to immediately leave the floor to my colleague, Vic Varuren, who's currently the Assistant Director General for Jobs and Protection at the ILO, just for some welcoming remarks and just to set the tone of this conversation. And before Vic, you start, I think there's someone from the panel. Please join the panel. Thank you very much. Over to you, Vic.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. You know, I've got some notes here which I'm going to refer to, but I was thinking when coming into this meeting, when it comes to the role of women in the workplace and the just transition, we haven't done ourselves proud. If I look back, it's, you know, when I was in the private sector, I used to be involved in human resources, and our companies managed human resources was to, you know, the managing director or CEO would say, right, we've got to make money, and they then put the human resources to a department on the side and say, right, you manage the human resources. And over time, I've learned that when it comes to gender, we say, well, go and manage gender, and people then want to manage the mainstream of the business, but leave it to someone else, in whatever organization they may be, or you know, use it as a cross-cutting theme. And we hear all these nice things about gender, but nothing really changes. When you look at the numbers out there, we've seen some progress and some pockets of excellence, but if we look at what climate change is going to do and the impact on women in these very vulnerable jobs that they do perform, they're going to bear the brunt of the negative side of climate change and the stuff that's happening. And what we need to do is look at the COP meetings as an opportunity to fast-track the role of women in the world of work. This is not a negative scenario that we're facing ourselves in COP. We're going to create many jobs under just transition. We're going to lose a lot, and many women will be impacted upon negatively. But on the positive side, we've got to get gender mainstreamed in the debate in part of the mainstream negotiations, and not as a side event that's going to plod along like we've done before. And what it needs is the leaders to recognize that this is an opportunity from within the UN system, from the private sector, from governments. And so the mainstreaming needs to start at the global debate. It's got to be carried through into the debate in the at national level and also in the UN system. And today we are a number of UN agencies that are represented here that work hand in hand. But we've got to make our voice stronger and make this debate a lot more serious. On some of the numbers that we've got, if I can just refer to that in closing, because I don't want to take too much time, there's 1.2 billion jobs, or 40% of the global labor force are dependent on ecosystem services and are at serious risk of global warming. And women are expected to be severely affected. When we look at the numbers of renewable energy, of the jobs that we created, 12.7 million in 2021, I think it is, 1/3 were going to women. And we say that's encouraging. Why not 50%? Why are we satisfied with 1/3? It has been a big move to 1/3. But we've got to start hitting the 50% plus if we are really serious. So those opportunities are there to be had. The policies we need to respond to climate change. Just transition that we talk about at the ILO presents significant opportunities. When we look at the 12 million new jobs by 2030, we need to have just transition policies in place, and we need to have substantial improvements for women in agriculture, reforestation, and similar activities which lend themselves to what we can do. We need to take a holistic approach in this gender response that can be guided by these just transition guidelines that we at the ILO have put together and which we share and which is part of the debate that's going on at the moment. The skills development side is going to be so important when we go forward. Governments in the developing economy haven't got their act together with the skills that are needed to match market needs. And that's where we need to mainstream and make sure that the young women coming through the new skills are part and parcel of what is needed in the market out there. We've got a program with LinkedIn where we're looking at what these future skills are, and that's where we need to pay attention. In closing, I'd like to say that there is a lot of good work that's being done, but it's like preaching in a church here today. We're preaching to the converted. We've got to get out there to the decision makers that are flying below the radar screen, that are ignoring these debates, and those are the people that we've got to get on board. 1 billion people, I think, are starting to learn about climate change. 7 billion haven't got a clue. So the task is enormous, and COP is the space that we can move from. And if we can take a few joules from here and make it happen, we will see a big difference. I sound like a preacher, so I'm going to stop and listen to the experts on my left here as to what they can advise us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vic, for sharing your personal experience, for talking about gender mainstreaming in all our work in COP27 and the future COPs, and to have more and more a discussion on gender responsive, gender transformative, gender inclusive, just transition. So I'd like to thank Vic, but also to welcome Susan Michaux, who is the Regional Director of UN Women based here in Cairo. Susan, over to you.
Thank you so much. Now, colleagues and friends, shifting away from economies depending on fossil to one that are based more on low emissions, that's essential, and I think most of us agree on that basic fact. So the question is how? And I want to share with you some of the hows from a gender equality perspective. To do so, I also want to share with you 3 distinct numbers that are very closely correlated. The first one is 5, the second one is 57, and the third is 21. 5 is the 5 degrees Celsius. This very region in which I work is expected to see before 2050. 5 degrees Celsius increase. However, if that's part of the problem, the part of the solution is the following: 57. 57 is the percentage of women in this very region, the Arab States region, graduating from 4 faculties that have traditionally and still are crucial for addressing climate change. Those 4 faculties are STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But here we come to the third number, 21. 21, my friends, is the number or the percentage of women in labor force participation in this region. What does this mean? It means that there's a tremendous loss of opportunities